All right, so today we're going to talk about solving proportions, and it's just a different type of equation, and it has one extra step, and then we'd solve them like we have been solving equations this week. So if you look at the top of your notes today, there are 3 steps, and the new step that is added today is step number 1. So to solve a proportion is just 2 fractions that are equal to each other. Sometimes they will call them ratios instead of fractions. Ratios is just another word for a fraction or a comparison of 2 values or 2 things. And so if we look at step 1 here, it says cross multiply. And then in parentheses, we give you a little example. So notice that we have 2 fractions that are equal to each other. So that's why it's called a proportion. And to cross multiply, what you're going to do is you're going to take these 2, okay, and you can circle it. Some people just draw arrows, but you're going to circle those, and those are the ones that you are going to multiply. And so we're going to say A times D. A times D. And that's what we do. Then we're also going to cross multiply the other 2. So let me change colors. And we're going to say B times C. B times C. So once we do that, if we have any parentheses, or you'll see in a minute, if we need to distribute, we distribute, and then we just solve it like we have been all week. So let's take a look at the first example. So we have 4/3 equals x over 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 4 times 6, and write that down just so you know where you're getting your numbers from. And we're going to set that equal to, now we're going to cross multiply with the others, 2, 3 times x. So we just write that down. Now, honestly, it doesn't matter if you do 4 times 6 first or if you do 3 times x first. It doesn't matter which part. I just tend to start at the top and cross multiply that way. So what we end up with is, now we just got to simplify this. So we don't have any parentheses, so we don't need to distribute. So now we just need to simplify and solve. So 4 times 6, 24. 3 times x is just 3x. And then now we're just going to solve it. This is actually just a one-step equation. So I look and say, okay, to get x by itself, I need to move the 3. To move it to the other side, remember we do the opposite. So the opposite, this says 3 times x. The opposite of times is divide. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I divide both sides by 3. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Okay, 3 divided by 3, technically they cancel. They really give us 1. We usually don't write the 1. And so I get an answer of 8. Now, here's how you can tell if you did it right. You can pop over to Desmos. And so what we're going to type into Desmos is we got an answer of 8. So remember, don't use X, Y, or R. So I'm going to use A. So I'm going to say A equals 8. And then you just do the left side. So that was 4 divided by 3. It's going to give me a decimal. And then I'm going to type in, instead of X, what was it, X over 6, I think? Yes. We're going to type in A divided by 6. And if we got the right answer, the number that pops up should be that 1.3 repeating. And it is, so I know that I solved my proportion correctly. And I can check it, and move on. All right, let's look at example 2. Now I have 2 over 10 equals 4 divided by n plus 5. So again, I know it's a proportion because I have 2 fractions that are equal to each other. So I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 2 times n plus 5. Now here, you got to be a little careful. Because we have n plus 5, which is an expression, we need to put that in parentheses when we write it out. So 2, and I didn't put a time sign because when we put a 2 on the outside of the parentheses, we know that means multiply. So 2 times the quantity n plus 5. When I say the quantity of, that just represents that I put the parentheses. Then I put equals. Now I cross multiply with the other two. So I'm going to write 10 times 4. And I'm done with the cross multiply. Now I just have to finish this off. So if I look, step 2 says distribute if needed. So I do see that I have some parentheses and I need to distribute. So remember, that means 2 times n. 2 times n is 2n plus, bringing the plus from right here just down, 2 times 5. So 2 times 5 gives me 10. And then I'm going to, over on this side, do 10 times 4, which gives me 40. Now I'm looking at this and go, oh, okay, this is a 2-step equation. And so we need to move the 10. Well, I guess I'll leave it black. Okay, minus 10. Because remember, we do the opposite. 2n, this gives me 0. 40 minus 10 is 30. And then my last step, remember your last step in solving an equation is always probably multiply or divide. So 2 times n, the opposite of times is divide. Divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, or they cancel. And n turns out to be 15. So again, check it in Desmos. So this time we got an answer of 15. You could change it to n. I have it a, so I'm just going to leave it. Okay, and the first, on the left side, we had 2 over 10. It's going to give me a decimal. Okay. The second side, we had 4 divided by n over 5. 4 divided by, and again, I used a, so instead of n, I'm going to be a plus 5. And when I finish typing that in, I see 0.2, 0.2, so I know my answer is correct. Come back over here, give myself a check, and I'm good. All right, so let's look at example 3, because if you've noticed, okay, they keep getting more and more stuff as we go. So I'm like, oh, look, it's a proportion. Cross multiply. Okay, so I have y minus 3 and 5. So this is very similar to the one we just did. I'm going to put the 5 in front because that's where you guys like it. That's where you're used to having it. And then because it's y minus 3, I'm going to put that in parentheses. Okay, so I set that part up. Now I put my equal sign. Now I got to cross multiply the other two. So that's going to be 2 times y. Okay. Now I'm going to start solving this. So with the 5 on the outside, I have to distribute 5 times y. Bring the minus down, 5 times 3 equals 2 times y is just 2y. Now, remember when we solved equations, we were using the phrase, don't call me after midnight, D for distribute, C for combine like terms. So remember, if you're looking for like terms, you would just look at this part right here. Is there anything you can combine? Any like terms? And the answer to that is no. You got a y and then a negative 15. And then you would come over here and you would see on this side, there's nothing we can combine. And so we would leave it, okay, and move on. So don't call me, that was combined. After, that's your add or subtract. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. Don't call me, the next thing would be move the variables to one side. So if I look at this equation, okay, I have variables on both sides. Now, you could move the 2y over with the 5y. Absolutely. The problem with that is that leaves you nothing over here where the 2y was. So I'm actually going to move the 5y over with the 2y. Okay. That way I still have stuff on both sides of my equal sign. And I did negative because I look in front of the 5y. It's a positive, so the opposite of that is a negative 5y. These give me 0. Bring the negative 15 down. And 2 minus 5 is a negative 3. Now, don't call me, we move the variable to the other side. After add or subtract, there is no add or subtract right here. And then midnight is the multiply or the divide part. So I look, it's -3 times y. Opposite of times is divide. Excuse me. These cancel. -15 divided by -3, +5. Excuse me. I apologize, guys. My allergies. All right, so again, you can check this. So now you don't just have a number on one side. So you're going to go to Desmos. Again, do not use X, Y, or R. I'm going to stay with my A, just out of habit. And so we got the answer to be 5. So we're going to say A equals 5. And then we're going to type in the left side. The left side was y minus 3 divided by 2. Okay, so I'm going to do A minus 3. Minus 3. And I probably should have, yep. Okay, so don't do what I just did. Since we have an expression on the top, we need to hit the divide button first. Otherwise, it's not going to write it out the way we want it. So A minus 3, I think I said divide by 5. Nope, I said divide by 2. Oh, sorry. Divide by 2. Okay. There we go. Okay, so 1. Then I type in what's on the left side, and that would be y divided by 5. And of course, you guys can split screen it. I'm just not good at the split screen. So A divided by 5. And 1 and 1, I know A equal to 5 or 5 is the correct answer. So I can give myself a check and move on. All right, so let's try one more. We're going to cross multiply. Okay, and again, I notice I have an expression, so I'm going to take the number and put it outside the parentheses that I'm going to put around my expression. And I'm going to put my equal sign. Okay, and then watch what happens here, because we're going to have k plus 9 times 3. So I'm actually going to have another set of parentheses. Okay, that's okay. So now, again, if we go back to what we learned about solving equations, don't call me after midnight. So D for distribute. Yep, I got some distributing I need to do. I have it here, and then I also have it on the right side. And I always like to draw those arches to remind me to multiply. So 5 times 2k, 10k. Bring the minus down. 5 times 3, be 15. Now I have to distribute over here. 3 times k. Bring your plus. 3 times 9. So again, following the rules that we gave you for solving equations, don't call. So can we combine any like terms? 10k minus 15, nope. 3k plus 27, no. Okay, so no combining. Don't call me. Now we have to move the variable to one side. So I'm going to try to move the 3k over with the 10k, mostly because most of us prefer or like the variable on the left side. So if it's a positive 3k, I do the opposite. So I subtract, make it negative. 10k minus 3k, 7k. Bring the minus 15 down. Bring your equal sign. This gives me 0. And then I'm left with a positive 27 because I see the plus. And you don't have to put the plus, because we don't ever put plus for positive. Once you do that, it's just a 2-step. But we are on the don't call me after, A for add or subtract. So we got to move the 15 over with the 27. So the opposite of minus is add. These cancel, bring the 7K down. 27 plus 15 is 42. Okay, and don't call me after midnight, means multiply or divide. So 7 times K, the opposite is divide. So K is equal to 6. 42 divided by 7 gives me 6. Now, again, you can check yourself in Desmos. So, pop over to Desmos, and let's see. Let me try. I'm going to try it. If this is an epic fail, then we'll just go back and forth. All right, let's see if I can get, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to delete these out. And again, you can use the K. So let's do that. K equals 6. All right, so we're going to type in the first. Now, the first is a pretty big fraction. So hit the divide bar first so it will create the fraction for you. And so we're going to say 2K minus 3 on the top. Then we're going to type in K plus 9 on the bottom. K plus 9. And it's going to give me a number. Okay, so I got 0.6. Okay. Now I'm going to type in what's on the right side of my equal sign, which is just the 3 divided by 5. 0.6. So that tells me I solved my equation or my proportion correctly. And so I can give myself a check. If I can get there, maybe not. Cabinet does not like split screen. All right, so let's make Desmos. Oh, this is why I don't. Oh, it drives me crazy. Okay, check mark, and we're good. All right, so I want you to try number 1, number 5, and number 4. So pause the video, try those 3, and then once you've done them, try to check them in Desmos. If you're good, then you're good to go, move on to the practice. If when you check them in Desmos, you don't get the right answer, unpause the video and come, and I'm going to walk through them. But right now, you try 1, 4, and 5. Pause the video, try those 4, check them in Desmos. If you got them all right, you're done. You can go work on the practice. If you need to come back here and unpause the video and hit play so you can watch me work through these, then go ahead and do that. So pause, try those 3. I'm going to keep going, but you pause and you try. All right, so cross multiply, and I'm going to go a little faster this time because you're just coming back to check. So I'm going to do that times that. So I'm going to say 3 times x minus 10, getting those in parentheses. And then I'm going to say equals, and then I'm going to do the other 2, 8 times x, which would just be 8x. Now I have to distribute. So I'm going to say 3 times x and 3 times 10. 3 times x, 3 times 10. So that's 3x minus 30. Okay. I don't have any like terms I can combine, so now I need to move the variable together. I'm actually going to move the 3x because I don't want to leave a blank or empty space on the other side of my equal sign if I move the 8. Negative 30 equals 5x. And then your last step would be to divide. So x comes out to be negative 6. Now I'm going to jump on Desmos and check it. Again, do not use x. I'm going to use a. I think a is negative 6. Type in the original left side of my equation. Oh, I need to do the divide. So I'm going to say a minus 10 divided by 8. Not that. Okay. 8, negative 2. Then I'm going to type in the right side, a divided by 3, and if I did it right, I should get negative 2. Yes. All right. So you would say yay and check and move on. All right, number 4. I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 9 times n minus 4. And write everything out. Don't try to shortcut it. Don't try to do some of this in your head. Don't try to get ahead of yourself, because that's where people start making mistakes. So I'm going to say 6 times n minus 7. I noticed 2 sets of parentheses, so I'm going to have to distribute twice. So 9 times n, and boy, I write too big for these boxes, don't I? 9n. Bring your minus down. 9 times 4, 36. Equals 6 times n and 6 times 7. All right, so notice I have variables and numbers on the both sides, so I need to get my variables to one side. Positive 6n, to move it, I make it a negative 6n. And I'm just going to drop into this next box because I write so large. So 9 minus 6 is 3n, still got the minus 36. Now here's where you got to be careful. These do cancel, which was the point, but make sure you catch that it's negative 42. Don't ignore the minus. That means 42 is negative. Now I got to get my numbers together. Add 36. 3n, these cancel. Negative 42 plus 36 is negative 6. And last step, divide both sides by 3, n is equal to 2. Okay. And in the essence of time, I'm going to skip checking it in Desmos because I think people are okay with checking in Desmos, but negative 2 is the correct answer. So just make sure you have that. All right, last one that I asked you to do by yourself. 3 times a plus 1. Again, the a plus 1 goes in parentheses because it's more than one thing. Then I put my equals. And then I'm going to do the other part of the cross multiply. 2 times a minus 3. Again, a minus 3, get it in parentheses. Now we have to distribute. We got to get rid of those parentheses before we start trying to do anything else to our equation. 3 times a. 3 times 1. Now we got to do the same over here with the 2. 2 times a. 2 times 3. Variables and numbers on both sides. Your next step is to get your variables together. So positive 2a, 1 it over with the 3a. I do the opposite, make it negative. 3a minus 2a is 1a. And you can put the 1, I'm not going to because we normally don't, plus 3 equals, that gives me 0 or cancels. And I have a, again, don't lose the minus, negative 6. Last step, because this is actually only one more step. We could put the 1, but if you're going to divide by 1, it doesn't change. Move the 3 by doing the opposite, which would be negative. That would give me 0, or as we say, they cancel. So a is going to equal negative 9. Again, just to save some time, not going to check it in Desmos. But you should. Always check behind yourself. You always will know if you did it right if you do the Desmos check. All right, so that's it. Go try the practice. If you need any help, just let me or Mrs. Witcher know. Thanks so much for watching.